Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
I wasn't even supposed to be home that morning. A client meeting downtown had been canceled last minute, something about a scheduling mix-up, and rather than heading into the office, I figured I'd swing by the house, grab a fresh shirt, maybe brew some real coffee, none of that burnt motor oil they called espresso at the firm. I remember thinking, might as well surprise her. Maybe we could have breakfast together for once. I parked quietly and came in through the side door. The house had that stillness to it, the kind that hangs when someone thinks they're alone. No sounds of cleaning, no running water, not even music playing, which was strange. She always blasted her me-time playlist when she was home alone. Taylor Swift or that ethereal indie stuff that always sounded like wind chimes whispering into a mason jar. I walked down the hallway toward the kitchen, stopping when I heard the faint hum of voices, her voice, distinctly. Then laughter. The kind that didn't carry tension or filters. The kind that signaled comfort and confidence. I paused just before the patio entrance, hidden from view by the way the hallway curved and the blinds were drawn. "I'm free to do whatever I want," she said, and just like that, the air shifted. It wasn't the words that hit me. It was the way she said them, light, flippant, unburdened, like she was declaring victory after a long-fought battle. One of her friends chuckled. "Ugh, jealous? Seriously." She went on, come on. I'm married, not imprisoned. If I want to go out with friends, flirt a little, disappear for a weekend, I will. He's not my warden. He's not even paying attention. Another burst of laughter, sharper this time, more knowing. I crawled across the back of my neck. "I'm telling you," she continued, "he wouldn't notice if I dyed my hair blue and moved to a yurt in the desert. As long as the mortgage is paid and there's almond milk in the fridge, he thinks everything's peachy." Their laughter didn't sting. It burned. Someone asked, "Is it really that bad between you two?" And she, my wife, laughed like she had just heard the most absurd thing. "No, that's the thing. It's not bad. It's nothing. Comfortable. Predictable. He doesn't make waves, doesn't ask questions. It's like having a roommate who pays for everything and doesn't talk too much." I leaned my forehead against the wall, just for a second, trying to stop the floor from shifting beneath me. She kept talking. "Honestly, sometimes I wonder what it would be like to be with someone who actually challenges me. Who notices me." There it was. That invisible knife twisting, slow and deliberate. I wanted to throw the door open, step out onto the patio, and demand to know who she thought she was talking about like that. But I didn't. I stayed where I was, unmoving. Because in that moment, I realized something deeper than betrayal was happening. She wasn't just mocking our marriage. She had already mentally stepped out of it. The conversation drifted into gossip about a friend's divorce, about some trainer at the gym who was too hot for his own good, and how one of their husbands cried when the dog had to be put down. But I stopped listening. My mind had already disconnected. My pulse felt distant, like it didn't belong to me anymore. Eventually, I slipped out as quietly as I came in, got back into my car, sat there for a few minutes with the engine idling, fingers frozen on the steering wheel. Not angry, not even hurt, just hollow. I remembered the way she used to look at me, the way we used to talk about everything from our dreams to what color we'd paint the guest room one day. I thought we were still in that place. Turns out, she'd packed up and left mentally while I was still decorating the walls. But I didn't tell her I'd come home and didn't ask about her brunch. Because that sentence, "I'm free to do whatever I want," wasn't just flippant. It was a door, and I had just seen through the crack. Now, I needed to know how wide it opened, who else she let in, how long it had been ajar. And most of all, I needed to decide if I was going to quietly walk out of that house forever or blow the hinges off the damn thing. I kept thinking about that morning on the patio, about her laughter echoing through the yard like it belonged to someone I didn't know. The woman I married never used to sound like that. So light, so detached, like she didn't have a care in the world. And the more I thought about it, the less I could chalk it up to venting or joking. It wasn't a one-off moment. It was a window, and she had opened it wide. I didn't confront her. Not because I was afraid. I just knew that whatever I said would be twisted, minimized, or mocked. That's how she'd been operating lately, turning everything into a performance, brushing off real concerns as if they were nothing more than inconveniences. So I stayed quiet. I watched. Every night she came home a little later, offered a kiss that didn't land, a smile that didn't meet her eyes. She'd toss out vague details about work events, about old friends she was catching up with, and then disappear into the bathroom with her phone glued to her hand. I wasn't just suspicious anymore. I was taking inventory. It was 3 days later that I got the message from Ava, her cousin. We weren't close, but we'd always had a cordial relationship, birthday messages, the occasional conversation at family gatherings. She was sharp, observant, and not exactly subtle when she had something to say. Her message was simple. Hey, this might be none of my business, but is everything okay between you and Rachel? I stared at the text, trying to read between the lines. Then I typed back. Why do you ask? The typing bubble came up instantly. She sent a series of photos, screenshots, mostly. Posts from Rachel's social media I'd never seen. Apparently, she had created a second account. Not private, just separate. A version of herself that didn't include me. There were pictures, cocktail glasses, rooftop lounges, her laughing with friends. In one, she was leaning against a man I didn't recognize, her hand on his arm like it belonged there. The caption? It was a clever play on words about being unclaimed, untethered. It didn't say she was single, but it didn't say she was married either. Then came the direct messages. One she'd sent to a mutual acquaintance, a woman named Haley, who used to work with her on an event planning committee. Yeah, I'm technically married, but it's more like a roommate situation. We live together. That's it. There's no passion. I come and go as I please. I scrolled through each one, a cold knot forming in my stomach. Her words weren't emotional or conflicted. They were matter-of-fact, like she had rehearsed them. Like this was a narrative she had been telling for months, maybe longer. Ava sent one last message. I didn't know if I should say anything, but when I saw what she's been putting out there, I figured you had the right to know. I'm sorry. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. She wasn't wrong. I did need to know. And now that I did, the only question was what I would do with it. That night, I waited. Rachel came home around 9, still dressed like she'd stepped out of a magazine, lip gloss perfect, heels clicking against the tile like a metronome. She dropped her purse on the counter, kicked off her shoes, and smiled at me. You're still up? I nodded. Couldn't sleep. She leaned in for a kiss. I let her, but I didn't kiss back. She didn't notice. She talked about her night, about the new lounge downtown, and how amazing the live music was. She mentioned a few names, conveniently leaving out any details about who she went with or why she hadn't said anything earlier. I just listened. I studied her face. The ease with which she lied. Then she said something that made me pause. You know, she began, casually slicing an apple in the kitchen, I ran into an old friend from college tonight. He couldn't believe I was married. Said I didn't look like the type to settle. She laughed like it was funny. I looked at her and said, Did you tell him you were? She shrugged. What does it matter? We were just talking. She didn't see the way I clenched my jaw. Or maybe she did. Maybe she wanted me to react. To demand an explanation so she could twist the moment and make me the insecure one. But I didn't give her that. Instead, I excused myself, went to the bedroom, closed the door, and opened a notebook I hadn't touched in years. Page 1. Everything I now know about my wife that she thinks I don't. I wrote down the date, the names, the lies, the photo captions. I started logging her patterns, her language, the way she positioned herself in other people's stories. Because she had built a fantasy where I didn't exist. And if she wanted freedom, if she wanted to act like she was single, I would make sure she got what she asked for. Only not in the way she expected. It's strange how betrayal doesn't always hit you head on. Sometimes it creeps in sideways, through someone you thought had nothing to gain. Someone who smiled at you during holidays and clinked wine glasses across the dinner table. Someone who once pulled you aside and said, Whatever happens between you two, I just want you both to be happy. That someone was Natalie, Rachel's best friend. The irony? I used to like Natalie. More than like. I trusted her. She had been around since the beginning, back when Rachel and I were still laughing in grocery store aisles and talking about baby names over pancakes. Natalie was there when we moved into our first apartment, when we bought our first couch. She toasted our engagement with tears in her eyes. That woman, the friend who swore she just wanted the best for us, was the same one who helped dismantle our marriage, brick by brick, behind my back. It started with a coincidence. I bumped into a guy I knew, Marcus, at the hardware store. We'd worked together years ago on a side renovation project. He was friends with Natalie's husband, and as we chatted about drywall and bad coffee, he asked casually, So, you and Rachel open now? Or just taking a break? I blinked. What? He looked embarrassed, laughed it off. Sorry, man. Natalie mentioned something at their game night a while back. Said you guys were more roommates than anything. Figured maybe you'd split quietly or were doing the modern marriage thing. I kept my expression flat, but inside something snapped. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed next to a woman who was already dreaming of her next escape, wondering how many other people were walking around with a version of our marriage that didn't come from me. And Natalie, her best friend, had been planting those seeds. Not just in private texts or harmless gossip, but openly, publicly, like she was the spokesperson for our collapse. The next morning, I checked Rachel's phone. Not because I was paranoid, but because by now, I knew where this path led. And what I found didn't surprise me anymore. It just confirmed everything. There were texts from Natalie. Dozens of them. One from just a week ago read, "You need to stop worrying about him. He'll be fine. You deserve to live a little. Take the trip. He'll adapt or move on." Another said, "He's not even asking questions, right? That's the thing with men like him. They think silence means strength. Use it." I stared at those words, feeling nothing at first. Then, slowly, that cold clarity returned. Natalie wasn't neutral. She wasn't just being supportive. She was fueling the fire, handing Rachel matches and fanning the smoke with every late night, "You go, girl," voice message. And the worst part? Rachel had listened. She had someone in her corner, reinforcing the idea that this wasn't betrayal, it was self-actualization. Reinventing herself, finding joy, reclaiming her youth. All while quietly erasing me from the narrative. The man who helped her build this life, the one she used to dream aloud with, was now just background noise in her quest to feel alive. I spent the day pacing, thinking. There was no point confronting Natalie. She'd deny it, twist it, accuse me of spying. And Rachel? She would defend her, as always. No matter what proof I had, she'd find a way to make Natalie look like the voice of reason and me like the bitter husband who just didn't understand. So I didn't confront anyone. Instead, I started moving in silence, just like they had. I spoke with a lawyer, quietly transferred my personal funds into a separate account, took inventory of every asset that had my name on it and flagged everything that didn't. I wasn't going to play victim in a story written without me. That night, Rachel came home late again. Her eyes were bright, her cheeks flushed, not from alcohol, but from that giddy, youthful energy I hadn't seen in years. She looked like someone who had won a prize, someone who believed she'd pulled off the impossible. She sat beside me on the couch, pulled her knees up, and started scrolling through her phone like I wasn't even there. "Everything okay?" she asked absently, not looking up. "Perfect," I said. And it was. Because for the first time in months, maybe years, I wasn't wondering what was happening. I knew exactly what I was dealing with, and I was almost ready to show her just how free she really was. There's something eerie about preparing to disappear from your own life, especially when no one sees it coming. I didn't plan it in a single night. I'm not that impulsive. No, it took me 2 weeks, 2 calculated, silent weeks of moving pieces into place. And in that time, I said nothing. I let her think I was still asleep. Every night she came home late, I greeted her with indifference. Not cold, not warm, just enough to keep the illusion intact. She still believed she was operating in the shadows. She was busy living her free life, unaware that I was in the middle of claiming mine. The legal prep was simple. I had copies of every document she never bothered reading. The house deed, the account statements, the prenup she forgot she signed because she never thought she'd need to remember. I had handled the finances for so long, she never once asked where the money sat or how things were structured. She trusted that I'd always be there. Always be the stable one. The loyal one. The fool. I closed our joint account quietly, redirected all deposits to my name. Had the locks changed on the cabin property she barely remembered existed. Took everything that was mine before she realized there was anything to take. And then, on a Thursday afternoon, I came home early. She wasn't there. No surprise. Her car was gone, her phone unreachable. Maybe she was at lunch. Maybe she was with someone who made her feel noticed. I didn't care. I walked through the house and saw it for what it really was. A museum of the life we used to have. The photographs were dusty. The fridge held takeout containers and half-used bottles of overpriced skincare. Her shoes were by the door, carelessly kicked off like she'd just assumed she'd always return to them. I went to the bedroom and packed exactly 3 bags. One with my clothes, one with my documents, one with the things that still meant something. Old journals, my grandfather's watch, the cufflinks from our wedding day. I left the rest. Every designer purse, every gift she used as a measuring stick for my devotion, it all stayed. Before I walked out, I placed a single envelope on the kitchen table. My name written neatly on the front, like a closing signature on a contract no longer valid. Inside was everything she'd need: legal contacts, a note on where to forward her mail, a copy of the divorce draft with the areas already signed by me. And nothing else. No goodbye, no explanation. Just freedom. The thing she claimed to want more than anything. When she came home hours later, I wasn't there. She texted, "Where are you?" I didn't respond. She called once. Then again. I didn't pick up. 10 minutes later, another message came in. "Why is our account empty?" Then, "Are you seriously doing this now?" Without even talking to me. Still, I said nothing. Because what was there to say? She wanted a life without accountability, without expectation. She told people we were just roommates. Just coexisting. So I took her at her word. I moved out of the frame she had carefully crafted and took everything that was real with me. Her friends would say I blindsided her, that she didn't see it coming. But the truth? She just never looked. She assumed silence meant weakness. I was done playing the fool in someone else's story. And as I lay on the couch in the cabin that night, watching the fire burn low, a strange calm washed over me. It was over. Just with a man who decided he was done being invisible. It's been 3 weeks. Long enough for the noise to settle. Long enough for the messages to slow down, for the calls to stop, for the silence to feel less like absence and more like relief. I wake up earlier now. Not because I have to, but because I want to. The cabin gets quiet before sunrise. No traffic, no notifications, no sound of heels clacking across the floor or doors slamming shut in the middle of a phone call I was never supposed to hear. Just wind, birds, and the occasional creak of the old wood settling around me. At first, I kept expecting the quiet to turn into loneliness. But it didn't. It turned into clarity. She sent more messages at first. Accusations, mostly. "You blindsided me. You overreacted. You owed me a conversation." That last one made me laugh out loud. I owed her a conversation. After months of being ignored, belittled, turned into a silent sponsor of her so-called freedom. She wanted a life where she could do whatever she wanted, with whomever she pleased, without consequence or confrontation. I simply stepped out of the way. Her tone shifted after the first week. The text softened. She asked if we could talk like adults. Said maybe she'd been processing things poorly. That she didn't expect me to take it so personally. That she was just trying to rediscover herself. She tried to rewrite the story like it had all been a misunderstanding. A phase. A miscommunication between two people drifting apart. But the thing is, I never drifted. I stayed anchored. She just set herself adrift and then got offended that I didn't dive in after her. I never replied to those messages. Because nothing I said would matter to someone who'd already written the ending and cast herself as the victim. She even had the nerve to send one voicemail after 2 weeks of silence. I didn't listen to it right away. It sat in my inbox like an unopened envelope from a place you've long since moved away from. When I finally played it, her voice was cracked, tired. Not angry, not gloating, just tired. She said, "I thought I wanted space. I thought I wanted freedom. But I didn't expect silence. I didn't expect you not being there to feel like this." I let the message in without replaying it. Deleted it right after. It didn't make me sad. It didn't make me angry. It confirmed everything. Because what she missed wasn't me. It was the version of me who kept giving without ever asking for anything in return. The man who paid for her lifestyle, who played the background, who filled the silences she created with effort, patience, understanding. That man doesn't live here anymore. Now, I spend my days fixing up the cabin. The deck needed sanding. The old swing out back creaks less since I reinforced it. I'm working on building a proper path down to the lake. Manual, quiet work. The kind that lets you think without spiraling. There's peace in having no one to impress. No one to convince you're worthy of their time. No one to perform for. I still think about her sometimes. Not with longing. With clarity. She didn't break me. She just showed me the final version of who she really was. And I finally listened. People say time heals everything. I don't believe that. I think truth heals. Silence heals. And walking away from someone who only ever saw your presence as a convenience, that heals more than anything else. I'm not bitter. I'm free. And unlike her, I didn't have to lie to get there.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.